Yeah, that's up to over 100 degrees, that chip. Hi, a viewer called Rob sent me these two Victron Colour Control GX modules, and what he said was they came from a friend's farm that had a lightning strike, so I'm not sure whether these are going to be repairable or not. This might just end up being an autopsy video, but we'll have a go, we'll see what we can sort out. So let's have a look at this one first. I'll connect it up to the bench power supply and we'll see exactly what it's doing. Right, I've got it hooked up to the bench power supply, which I've got set to 12 volts at 1 amp. So let's just switch the output on. And it seems to be drawing about 0.6 of an amp. And it seems completely dead. So no signs of life at all on this by the look of things. So I think I might get the back off and then we'll have a look under the thermal camera, see if we can see anything. So I'll just switch it off and let's just see how it comes apart. Little bracket thing there. So I've got two screws at the bottom. I'll just remove this little plug if I can. Seems to be quite stuck in there. Let's grab a bigger screwdriver. Oh, got bits of spiders and all sorts in here. Let's zoom down a bit. It's like we've got some insect remains there. A few bits of cobwebs. So I think I might give this a little brush out first, just to get rid of all of these insect remains, and then we'll connect it back up to the bench power supply and get the thermal camera on it. Well, I've cleaned the board off. I've got the thermal camera at the ready here. So let's just switch it on and see if anything starts getting hot. Oof, yes, there's something there. Yeah, that's up to over 100 degrees, that chip. And there's something there. Let's just see if I can find something to point with. So it looks like that IC there. And that IC there. So those two ICs seem to be getting incredibly hot. And I think that's about it. I'll get this under the microscope and we'll see what those ICs are. Right, I've got it under the microscope. This is one of the chips that's getting hot, which looks like some kind of power supply or power management chip there by the look of the inductors around it. And the other chip that was getting hot is this one here. Let's see if I can focus that in a bit better. So that looks like SMSC8710. So I'm not sure what that IC is, but I'll have a look and see if I can find a data sheet for it. Well, those are the two chips that were getting hot. So I think maybe removing those first, or possibly removing this one first. And then we'll see if the power supply one still gets hot, I think. I'll see if I can find a data sheet for this to see exactly what it is first. So this chip here seems to be the Ethernet controller according to the data sheet. So I wonder if the lightning has come down the Ethernet cables and fried this chip, and that's what's overloading the power supply IC, which is further down here. So let's try removing this and we'll see what it does after that. So I'll put some flux on it and then we'll get the hot air view workstation on it. Right, so that's the old chip removed. Let's just give this a little bit of a clean up. Just use some isopropyl alcohol and a cotton bud. Right, let's plug it back in and we'll see what it's doing now. Right, let's see what it does when we power it on now then. Oh, well that looks promising. Got the old IC just here. I wonder if this will actually boot up then. I'll just give it a moment just to do its thing. Oh, starting. Obviously it's not going to have any Ethernet. It says there the Ethernet's connected, but obviously there's nothing plugged into the back of it. I think it's because the chips are missing. So I'll have to see if I can get a replacement IC, and then we'll see if the Ethernet works when it's connected. But that looks to be what the fault is on this one. So one thing that I have noticed with it as well is the current draw is only 0.2 of an amp now, a quarter of an amp. So definitely the Ethernet controller chip is fried. Right, let's have a look at the other one then. So I've got the other one plugged in. Let's just see what happens when we switch this one on. Let's make my power supply make a funny noise here. So this one's drawn about half an amp as well, which I think is more than what it should. Although it does seem to be booting up. Starting. Okay, let's try settings. Oh. Well, this one seems to be working. Although it is saying that the Ethernet's connected. So I wonder if there's a problem with the Ethernet chip on this one as well. I suppose it would make sense if both of these were connected and something's hit, let's say, I don't know, one of the wires going to the router or something, and it's sent voltage down the Ethernet cables. That might well be what's happened with these. Let's rip the back off and we'll get the thermal camera on it. Well, this one looks equally crusty inside. See some remains of insects and stuff around about here, so I'm not sure whether these were used maybe outdoors or something. Let's get the thermal camera on it. I'll just get it hooked up to the bench power supply again. Right, I've got the camera recording. Let's just power it on. Oh, and we've got the same. Actually, there's 3 chips getting hot there. So that one is the Ethernet controller again. I think that one's the main CPU. And that's the power supply chip. But the hottest one seems to be the Ethernet controller again. At a nice toasty 85 degrees. Right, I think we'll get that off then. So pretty much same as the last one. I'm going to add some flux to the IC again. And then let's hit it with some hot air. Right, I'll have to see if I can order 2 Ethernet controller chips now then. So one thing that I have noticed is that both these boards are actually slightly different. There must be slightly different revisions or something. This is where the little module plugs into that I've just removed the Ethernet chips from. But if we look here, this has got like an analog chip here or whatever, and one there. And this board hasn't. It's actually got different ICs. And looks like this one's got a big PIC micro there, and this one hasn't. Just thought that was a little bit interesting. Right, I'll order 2 Ethernet controllers, and then we'll see how we get on when those arrive.
A few days later.
It's been a few days and the new chip has arrived. So let's see if we can get that into position. And let's give it some hot air. Right, that's cooled down a bit now. And that looks okay. Yep, happy with that. Right, let's see what happens when we test it now then. Right, let's put the board back into the carrier. And let's switch it on. And we'll see if the Ethernet works. Well, it's still drawn about 1/4 amp, so that's a good sign. It's not drawn 1/2 amp like it used to. Just waiting for it to come up starting here. There we go. So if we go into Ethernet here. Haha, unplugged. Excellent. Right, let's get a cable. And we've got some lights on there. Oh, it's still saying unplugged. Oh, it's flashing. Aha, connected. And we've got an IP address. And that's on my network, because my network starts 10. So 10.0.0.101. And the gateway is correct as well. Excellent, so this one's actually working. Yes. Right, let's see if we can fix the other one then. That'll be a good result if I get 2 out of 2. So I've prepped the area. I've put some fresh leaded solder on here because it's got a lower melting temperature than the health and safety stuff, the silver solder. So let's get this chip in place. Just line it up. I think that's about it. Right, let's get some hot air on it. So I've got the temperature set to 340 and 3% airflow. And the station I'm using is the ATTEN ST-862D. Let's see how that looks. I'm not so convinced on those ones. Those ones look okay. I think those ones might need touched up slightly. And that looks better. I'll clean that off in a moment. I think there was too much solder under the chip, so the chip was kind of floating a bit. I think that'll be alright. Let's clean this off with a bit of IPA. Yeah, I think that'll be alright. Right, let's give this one a test then. Right, got to connect it to the bench power supply. Let's switch it on. And it's drawn about 0.2 amp, 0.26, so that seems right. Let's just plug a cable in. And we've got some lights, which looks good. Let's just see if it gets an IP address on that now. I think the wires just came off there. We'll come back to this once it's booted up. Right, it's just finished booting up. Let's have a look in settings. Connected. We have an IP address and there's my gateway. Excellent. Oh, we've got some flashing warning there. Let's see what that's about. Available update, so it's connected to the internet. Oh, that's the wire coming out the back here. Typical. That's better. I didn't have the wire plugged in properly, but it's found an update there, so it's obviously communicating to the internet. Right, that's better. So we can see there, we've got the IP address now. We have a gateway, which is correct. And it says it's connected, so Excellent. So I'd say that's both of these fixed. And it's even picked up the time from the internet there. So there we go then. So I'm pleasantly surprised that we actually fixed these. So have you managed to fix anything or had an item that's been damaged with a lightning strike before? Let me know in the comments below.